I'm Lorian, and welcome to Knitting Monologues. This is episode 31. It is the 30th of July, so almost at the end of the month, and I have been doing a lot of knitting, in part because it's been oppressively hot. I think we've had a string of maybe 5 or 6 heat advisory days. My car was registering 111 yesterday at one point. So I don't, if I had a pool, I might be in it, but otherwise I'm not out in the high heat of summer. I get out early in the morning and that's been about it. But that's given me a lot of material. It's probably been 3 weeks since my last update. On this channel, I mostly talk about knitting. There's a touch of crochet this time. I've got a couple of books I wanted to mention, and let's just jump right into it. So the first is what I'm wearing. I just finished this sweater. It is called Wilfreda. Here it is. I did a T version. So I ended the sleeve short. This pattern is designed by Wenche Ronald. And I have made some modifications. So first things first, the yarn I used is Juniper Moon Farm Cumulus. This was new to me. It is predominantly cotton. I think there's a small percentage. It says Israeli Mako cotton and a touch of nylon for strength. It's 94% cotton and not 6% nylon. This color is called White Lion. And I saw Tammy from Wine and Wool podcast, which is a fabulous one. If you are not currently following them, definitely check them out. I feel like Tammy and I have a lot of, first of all, they all have beautiful taste. They're prolific knitters. They're excellent knitters. They do a lot of sweaters. The output and volume of content on their episodes is pretty significant. I feel like I have a lot of, and they do knit similar. Sometimes they'll all knit the same design at different points in time, sometimes at the same time. I do find I get enabled most often by Tammy, and she knit this sweater. She did it short sleeves. She tapered the body, which I decided, and sort of cinched in the waist. I didn't do that. I ended up knitting the size 40, but I knit it down. So I knit the stitch count for the size 40, but I used the pattern I believe calls for a size 10 needle. I used a 7. So I think mine has come out a bit smaller. It's a little bit more fitted. I have not blocked this. I also started with the collar, and I did not do I cast on below the collar, I should say. I did not knit the collar, and it has a slight little bit of a rolled edge. I'm not sure I'm gonna do anything further with it. I kind of like the way it's laying as it is, but we'll see. I was a little nervous with the cotton that it would stretch too much, and I have to see. I'm gonna wear this today, not just for this episode, but for the day, and I'm gonna see how it wears from there. I did a twisted rib here, which I think is what it calls for at the arms. I knit these sleeves. They're quite fitted. I knit them 3 inches long. It's an interesting design called, like I said, called Wilfreda, in that it combines this really cool textured sort of band here and here, a cable, a very basic. You've got two rows of cable, folks, and you accomplish this gorgeous yoke. And then the rest is stockinette. You do a few rounds here of raglan under the arms, which I think is pretty genius, because it allows you, especially for those of us, I have a pretty good size difference between my actual rib cage and my full bust measurement, and so it gave me a little bit more room under the arms. You don't need to have that for this to still make sense. It still widened it, but still enabled the yoke to fit nicely. So I really liked that combination, and I think I needed, like, for my size, maybe 4 rounds of increases. What else? I guess it was kind of midsummer when I realized I really wanted a couple of summer tees, and I had been with my friend Debbie. We'd gone to a local yarn shop together, and she was working in this Cumulus yarn, in one of their variegated colors, and she needed another skein. So I took a look at what our local store had, and unfortunately they didn't have enough skeins in white. I also saw this beautiful lemon yellow. Again, they didn't have enough skeins. I wasn't sure what I was gonna make. And that was probably a good 3 weeks ago already. So this sweater I thought I might knit in Lena, held by Sandra Scarn, but in the end, I ordered the Cumulus. I bought it from Little Knits Seattle. They do great sales, and the yarn was 20% off. I love a fresh white. I love a fresh white t-shirt. I love a fresh white blouse. I love a fresh white sweater. So that was pretty much it. The sweater, the original design calls for a lower back, so you had short rows in the back. I didn't think that was necessary, and I just was ready to have it done. So I strongly recommend the pattern. I think it's really striking. I actually knit this in, let's see, it's Wednesday, and I bound off. That's all I had to do today. I knit it in 3 days. And I did try several other patterns for this yarn. I didn't like how it was turning out. I think it's considered an Aran weight yarn. I bought a pattern that just wasn't, I thought I could use this for Stella Alpina. The gauge was just too far off. And I tried another pattern. I just didn't like how, that had some kind of cables basically coming down from the collar, and like braided cables, and I just didn't like how the fabric was looking otherwise. The truth was, I'd already started this sweater in the yellow, so I fell in love with the yellow. Yellow's been having a moment. I've been having a moment with yellow, and I have one in yellow, and I had started it, gotten to a point, then started the white, and put the yellow aside. Ended up finishing the white, and I'll show you the yellow in a minute. Couple of key things that I look for in a sweater pattern, which is there a schematic in this one? Yes, there is. Are there things like the raised neckline in the back, short rows that raise the back of the sweater? This one has that. I'm just pulling up my pattern itself to see, does it? Yes, it has the schematic. It does have this is really nice. If this is a fantastic design, because the yoke texture and cables is charted and written. So if you're not comfortable with charts, it's fabulous. And all in all, this is about 20 rows or so, depending on your size, 20 rounds. It's really, really manageable, and I just think makes a beautifully striking design. Like I said, it's actually not designed for cotton or short sleeves, but it worked quite perfectly, in my opinion, for this yarn. I really felt it was the perfect pairing. What else do I check for? There are really not many other advanced techniques, I would say. It uses German short rows. You could use whatever you want. As far as short rows, you could always skip them too. I personally like the back of the sweater to be raised. For one, it tells me which side is the back, and for two, I appreciate the fit better. I don't recall if there are video tutorials. I didn't actually check that out. I don't think so. I don't think you need video tutorials for anything. But it is a very well written pattern. It's a pretty simple pattern all in all, because once you get down below the yoke, you do the few rounds of increases for the raglan area, and then you just knit your yoke to the length that you need it to be, and then divide for sleeves and body. And it's straight stocking it for a while. Like I said, I love the white. I know it blows out on camera. This is like the third place I tried to set up. I think the more direct sun wasn't really working, but I'm wearing it today. Like I said, super happy. I think I stood up, but here you go. Side view. Okay, so as I mentioned, I saw this yellow color in the store, cast on, and I was like, I need to have the yellow as well. So this is the version in yellow. also, again, it's looking like the back isn't raised, but it is. I did the same thing, cast on, this was actually my first version, but I cast on the collar, like below the collar, and I'm knitting down. And here you can see I'm divided for sleeves and body. I'm going to be in the car for a bit today as a passenger, so I'm going to just be doing straight stockinette down. I knit the body to about 13 inches and then did a 1/2 inch. Each of these are about 4 or 5 rounds of the 2x2 twisted rib. Honestly, I don't usually knit a pattern twice, but it was just such the perfect pairing. I wanted something that was a little more than a basic tee, but really didn't require a lot of modifications on my part, a lot of thought, something that I could do quickly because, as I mentioned, it's midsummer and here I am just starting my summer knits. So I wanted to be able to wear them this season. So hopefully that'll be a finish within a week's time or less. Okay, I'm gonna move on. So I took a little, other than these, before I started these 2 sweaters, I took a little break from sweaters altogether and caught up on some of the things that were on my list to knit this year while I was kind of waiting for this yarn to arrive. So I knit a Sophie scarf out of this. Just a little. I used all the yarn. I bought this yarn a while ago, probably the winter after the Sophie came out, in black and in this garnet color. This is also by Juniper Moon Farm. It is called Celestinia. And I have knit one of these pretty much right away for my daughter in the black. I have not woven in ends. I watch football, especially college football. That's for finishing. Football is for finishing, and the season will be starting soon enough that I'll get all of my summer knits finished, unless, of course, I'm wearing it, then I finish it. Celestina is 60% virgin cashmere, 26% extra fine merino wool, and 14% nylon. It is just so yummy, so yummy. And again, this color is, the black was obsidian, but this red I believe is called garnet. And it just made for a quick knit for car knitting also. I knit this to 18 stitches. I used a size 5 needle. I knit it, you knit it tip to tip, and it has the little I-cord. I tried a different pattern. I didn't like how it was turning out, and I was like, why mess with success? That has been kind of my mantra lately. So I have 2 or 3 Sophies now. I'll have a red one. I just love red as a color, as an accent. So it was nice to be able to check that one off the list. I have showed this probably 3 times so far, but it is now finished. This is called the Autumn, I forget what it's called because it's not actually mine. Autumn Fusion Shawl. That's what it is. By SwingKnits is the name she goes under. And this is a project that I knit for my mom because she really wanted it and planned to knit it and just couldn't follow the short rows. All of these sections are made with German short rows, and it's basically two balls of yarns. You have the solid color that makes these straight areas in between, these dividing areas, and then use a color changing yarn to make the forms here, the fields I think they call them. And similarly, knit it tip to tip. This is where my mom started. She did not want to carry her yarn, and that would make me crazy. So I guess I still have to weave in ends. It has been blocked. I think it's kind of fun if you like this kind of color changing yarn to see how it works out. It's not really a project that I would knit personally, but I know she'll be happy to have it. I know she was struggling with it. I kept going through how to do German short rows with her, and it just wasn't really connecting. I'm just gonna look up the designer's name here. Oops, projects. Autumn Fusion, I called it. Brigitte Elliott. I think these were very popular for a while, and she just fell in love with the yarn. These are really her colors. They're not as much mine, but glad to have done it and finished it, and I know she will really enjoy wearing it. I'm gonna see her next week, so I will give it to her. Okay, I also finished these mitts, fingerless mitts. They are called the Songbird fingerless mitts. I actually might do some duplicate stitching and add some color to it, which I kind of forgot about until I'm just looking at it here, which I might do when I finish and do all the strings, but here we go. This is a pattern by Sarah L. Kelly. I didn't originally think I was going to plan to do them in these colors, but when I realized the yardage required, it didn't make sense to break into like a full skein of yarn for this. So the green is just Leave Me Alone by at Haynes House. I think it's the Bare Feet sock base. The it's almost like a pinky cream is called Viola. That is from Playfulday Yarns. I feel like every year I try to make a point of knitting something in Playfulday Yarns colors because they're just spectacular. So there's those. And the blue was some leftover yarn. So it was just not, it just made more sense. And I really didn't have anything in this color combination. So the birds speak to each other, talk to each other here. You have this trellis kind of pattern, and just some corrugated ribbing at the cuff and the fingers. So I'm really happy with how they came out. I tend to wear mittens or my fingerless mitts in the winter, so I use my sock blockers to block them. And really happy with how they came out. All right, moving on. This summer I really wanted to improve this year my crochet skills, which are pretty basic. I have crocheted a couple of buckets. I have crocheted a bucket hat, which is basically a bucket flipped over with like an increase round for the brim. And I have been working on these little squares all summer. I started this project in mid-June. I need to make like 1,000 or so squares. So it's a long-term project. I'm using a bunch of neutral colored minis. This is just one color that I'm working on. And they're about 1.5 to 2 inches, sort of. That's a big difference, but they're somewhere in between that depending on the yarn. So I have been working on this color. I finished all the dark colors that were in my plan so far. And now I'm into more of the neutrally colors, and then there will be whites. So that's the Battenberg blanket. It is by Sandra Paul, I believe is her name. It's been around, yep, Sandra Paul. Okay. The other project that I really was curious about and just thought was too adorable, I had put it on my list to try this year, is called the Granny Square Chicken. And I have to tell you, there are probably a few Granny Square Chicken patterns. The one that I saw that I fell in love with is by Sweet Softies, which I was just gonna look and see. That is what the designer goes by. There's no other given name. And so we had a stormy day, and I was like, this is the day I'm going to figure out the Granny Square Chicken. Here she is. Here they are, because I have made 3 of them. And they're just too cute. So it is a different pattern than I'm using for the blanket squares. You basically start with 2 squares. It is a free pattern, or you can pay for it with no like advertisements for a PDF version. And the part that really took me the longest was learning how to do this design. And you can really use any square. I had not done one where I changed colors. I had not done one, I just hadn't done this pattern before, so that took me a bit. I used fingering yarn, I used scraps, I have tons and tons of scraps, and these are so small that I could just do that. I do intend to give them to some friends. I intend to make more. You buy these safety eyes, and so you knit the 2 square, or you crochet the 2 squares, and then you go and start seaming them together and fill it. So what I filled mine with is, these are all ends from trimming, from the little strips when you first open a skein to wind it. And so I did use some of this. I just save them. I feel like it's a waste not to just throw them out. I mean, trust me, I've thrown them out, but over the years, but this year I've started saving them. So, so it's been fun also because I have certain friends in mind for each. And there are plenty of videos. There is a video for how to do the actual squares. There's a video on doing the little beak and the comb on top. And I just bought these safety eyes from my local big box store. So I love these. I mean, you could change the gauge of the yarn and make a bigger one. You could use bigger squares and a different pattern. But if you're one of my local friends, you'll probably get one for Christmas, if not sooner. So I've just been I've had a lot of fun making them. Like I said, I took a day to pretty much do all the squares, and then a morning to just seam them, stuff them, put the eyes on, and finish them. So I think they're super cute. I don't do a lot of toys. I don't really have anybody who wants toys, but I think these are so cute. So I also, there's a knit and crochet club at the high school where I work with about 30 students or so, max, usually, who, not max, we don't have a limit, but I believe there are about 30 students at the most involved. And I'm gonna bring one to show them because I just think it's too cute. They do a ton of fundraising. They teach one another. Mostly crochet is what they work on. They teach one another, and then they make a lot of times small things, keychains, like toys like this, and they sell them for $1 to $5, and they raise that money and they give it to various charities each time they have a sale. So super cool. This is the Granny Square Chicken by Sweet Softies, and I used a C hook for this. I used the C hook for my blanket. Also, it's just what I feel. I liked the gauge of the material. I mean, are these perfect? No. I mean, you can kind of see the stuffing in, but I also felt like if my friends had scraps, they could just kind of keep stuffing them if they wanted to. Okay. That is all that I have accomplished. I feel like I blew through all of those. I did go on a little day trip with one of my friends who also works in school, so she has the summers off. She knows I'm pretty much always game. So we did a little day trip to New Jersey to Do You Knit, and I made a purchase, which then it made me make another purchase. So at the store, I bought these 2 skeins of Spincycle yarn. The color is called Dark Side. They're neon-y and black and lots of pinks and yellows. I just was really taken. This is the dyed in the wool, the sport weight version. And I just thought they would work really great with some yarn that I had. So, let me see. I then came home and put them next to this yarn, which is from Explorer Knits and Fibers. It's the Earthy sock base. The color's called To the Stars Who Listen. I had already purchased this. I think these are going to be fabulous together. And I will knit probably a colorwork sweater, I think by Deborah Gerard. I haven't fully decided, but I do have the matching Surrey but that would put me pretty far off gauge for the for the spin cycle, to use with the spin cycle. So so we'll see about that. But I basically had 2 skeins of the fingering and 2 skeins of the Surrey, and realized I probably needed more of the Earthy sock. So I found some, and I'm really happy with how the colors look together. I may have to knit it helically, but I may not. So I found some at a store. The fact that I found this base, this color, because usually they do just dyes, you know, drops. So I ordered 2 more skeins of that. So that will be a sweater I work on next year, which I'm going to do very many fewer sweaters next year. My max is going to be 6. You heard it here and now. My husband and I took an overnight trip to Saratoga, New York to see a Dave Matthews Band concert. He's one of our favorite musicians, and it had been years since I had been to the Saratoga Performing Arts Center, but it is a fabulous venue if you ever have the chance to see any concert there. It was a great venue, the nicest people. We made friends with the people next to us. We were buying one another drinks. We sat next to at a table and had a quick bite before the show started, and we started chatting with the people who were sitting there with us, and they were lovely. Obviously some really devoted fans. It was a great show. My husband had a fantastic time. So that means we'll get to go again. I'm a big fan of live music. He is less so, and the conditions under which we go have a big impact for him. So this was a birthday present for him. We stayed overnight in a pretty basic hotel just near enough to the concert venue to get home. I paid up for parking just so that we were guaranteed a spot. It was all worthwhile. We had a fantastic time. On the way home, we went through Kingston, New York, and stopped at one of my favorite yarn stores, Yarn from Kingston. They have a bar in their yarn store. You can drink a glass of wine in the yarn store. They have some of the best food. It's owned by Jocelyn and Todd, same name as my husband. And they opened it, I think it's about 3 years ago now, maybe 4. And I went with some of my friends on yarn shop hopping, and that was the first time we visited it, and I've been back a couple of times since. So they had a few things there that I purchased, and Todd was there, so it was nice. Todd got to talk to Todd. It was a little before lunchtime, so we didn't eat or drink there, but they actually can't serve wine or alcohol before noon. There was a small skein of Handspun. It says Handspun and hand dyed, 30 grams. It was on sale. So I'm not a spinner, but I appreciate it, and I purchased this. And then they had some Loopy Mango on sale. Like I said, I'm having a little love affair with cotton. I'm not sure what I will do with this because it is only about 100 yards in total. But I could see it like as a yoke. I could see it as a hat, but I don't know, cotton hat. I will say, I did knit 2 hats, but they're test knits, and the pattern has not been released yet. I knit the adult size and the baby size. It is a summer brimmed hat that was a new to me designer, but she's pretty big. I think she's out in the UK somewhere. And when it comes out, I'll be able to share the hats with you. They were pretty quick knits, and I learned a new technique in doing it, which was fun. So that is it for knitting. Real quick, because I am going to head out for the day, I very much wanted to share with you some reading or some book recommendations. So I finished Prodigal Summer, which is not a new book. I was listening to it as an audiobook on long solo car rides or my walks when I go out and walk my dog Cooper in the morning. I loved it. I loved the narrator's voice. It's Barbara Kingsolver wrote it, I think, several years ago. So I was able to renew it because that's the problem with me in audiobooks. I tend to need longer than 3 weeks to get through them. I just thought it was a beautifully woven and written and very interesting story. She's an amazing writer, and I have enjoyed several of her books. I am now listening to The Women, which is by Kristin, and that's not a new book. I know it's very popular. A lot of book groups have read it. I'm a big Kristin fan. My daughter's reading The Nightingale, which is my favorite, but I have read The Four Winds and The Great Alone, maybe one or two others as well. So far I'm enjoying it. I think she does female characters brilliantly. I gave up on one of my summer reading books because it was just going too slow, and that was The Giver of Stars by Jojo Moyes. I conceded defeat there because I felt like it was taking me too long. I just wasn't reaching for it. I also wasn't knitting anything that I could read with at the time, and I wanted to get through these next two books I'm going to show you. So the first one is called Accountable. It is by Daksha Slater. It is a nonfiction book, and it is, I believe it's considered young adult nonfiction. I think this is a very important book. The district where I work is, this has become part of required reading lists for some of our students. The subtitle is The True Story of a Racist Social Media Account and the Teenagers Whose Lives It Changed. I don't read a ton of nonfiction, but I do if it's very well done, and this one really is. It uses a lot of first-hand accounts. It uses court documents. It is based on a situation that happened in a high school in California in 2017. So it is fairly recent. It is not, I don't read young adult literature. I find a lot of, I just can't relate to a lot of teenage angst, if you will. But some books I think have been, have been great. I have really enjoyed them, but I don't tend to go for that, even though I have access to a library that has a large selection of that since I work at the high school. I'm really glad that our school is reading this. We had an incident 2 school years ago, and this brought back a lot of those themes, a lot of things that were kind of similar. There is a section, there is a message towards the end of this book. I will say is very intense, very serious themes, but it also has a lot of kind of where these kids are now. And I thought there was a passage that just so resonated with me. And it's a lot of retelling of interviews, not scripted as an interview, but some quoted material. And this is about one of the students, his perspective. And he says, in general, he didn't really keep up with the news because he'd always figured it didn't affect him. But now he was thinking, isn't that what privilege is? Knowing that the news doesn't affect you in the way it affects other people. Just because he wasn't suffering didn't mean he shouldn't be paying attention, because maybe there was something he could do to help someone else. I have written that down. I have carried that with me in my phone because I feel like it is very easy to look away from what might not be impacting us directly. And so I feel like, to me, that is one of the huge takeaways from this book. I don't know because I'm not going to be a student in class, but the administrator I support is, I adore him, and he was originally an English teacher, and he loves literature. And so I went and visited him 2 weeks ago, just to say hi, check in, and told him I had just finished this book, and we had a little chat about it, it was great. He listened to the audiobook, and so I'm going to bring that phrase, that little section, back to him, because to me, that is everything. Privilege is being able to turn away from things that don't directly affect you because you don't think they directly affect you, but we all live in this world. Okay, off the soapbox there. I am also reading The Frozen River. Also quite a popular book. I've heard other, even knitting video podcasters talk about this, by Ariel Lawhon. It takes place in the 1700s in Maine. I am loving it. I love the main character. It's a bit of a mystery, a bit of a love story. It's not as much a love story. I think there's a mystery behind most of it, and I am gobbling it up. I have been able to knit these sweaters while I read this book. So I'm just loving it, and I feel really good. I borrowed this book from, we have a staff, kind of couple of shelves where you can just donate books or take them out and borrow them. Again, I'm not the fastest reader because I'm usually knitting, but when I can knit and read, that's even better. So I do read on its own. So I'm loving this book. I don't know where it's going, but really enjoying that. That said, I want to lastly thank anybody who left a comment on a particular post of mine on Instagram. Oh, you can find me here and everywhere else as Yarn Love Turtle. I have sometimes talked about various things non-knitting related. So one of them is that I've grown my hair out, so all of my hair color is now natural. The other thing I've talked about is, so I've talked about hair color, I've talked about hair loss, because I went through a period where I was having a lot of hair loss, and I'm well beyond that now. I found some great treatments, and you can kind of look back and see some things that worked for me there. The other thing that afflicts me currently in life is I have arthritis. I have osteoarthritis in my left foot. And I have an orthopedic surgeon who is brilliant. I've had surgery on both feet, not by him, and for something else, probably about 20 years ago now, but not quite, maybe 15 years ago. And he just basically says, you have arthritis, you have bad feet, here's some anti-inflammatories, you can come back for a cortisone shot. So somehow, on my knitting Instagram account, the most popular, by far, by multiples, post is a picture that I took, that I'm going to show you now, of my feet in a bucket of ice. Because of the pain I was experiencing, and basically what I find to be the most effective treatment is this. Oh, there you go. Feet on ice. Now I do get a lot of walking, and I walk 3 miles or a little more each day usually with my dog Cooper. And I want to put out there, does anybody else have arthritis? What are you finding? And I put that picture up. And again, I don't mean likes, I mean views. It has been viewed by over 2,000 people, and I don't think my feet are that interesting or unique. I wasn't getting a pedicure. They were clean. But I did also get probably 20 or more suggestions of alternative treatments and things. So far, the extreme ice really is the most helpful for me. I have tried Voltaren, which my husband uses on his knee, and I did nothing. I can take anti-inflammatories or just general, like Tylenol, which can help as well. And truth be told, in the winter, I don't have these problems. I would have problems if I wore high fashion, pointy, or high-heeled shoes. I really can't do that anymore. Those days are over too. But I want to thank everybody who did leave a comment, and anybody who's out there who viewed that as well as this. All right, that is going to be a wrap for today. I look forward to catching up with you in a couple of weeks. Take care, keep cool, and keep knitting.